a professional television interview on a modern news set. The scene unfolds on a cutting-edge news set, meticulously designed to convey both sophistication and contemporary relevance. The atmosphere is charged with a sense of urgency, as if the discussion taking place holds significant weight in the public discourse. At the center of the set, a sleek glass table reflects the ambient neon lighting, casting a futuristic glow over the two principal figures seated across from each other. The black man, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy blue suit, exudes confidence and authority. His posture is upright, his expression composed yet intense, suggesting a deep engagement with the topic at hand. His attire, crisp white shirt, silk tie, and polished dress shoes, speaks to professionalism, while the subtle sheen of his suit under the studio lights adds to his commanding presence. Opposite him sits the blonde woman, her white outfit radiating a sense of neutrality and poise. Her attire is modern yet understated, a fitted blazer over a minimalist blouse, paired with elegant slacks. Her demeanor is attentive, her gaze steady as she listens or prepares to interject with a probing question. The contrast between her light ensemble and the man's darker suit creates a striking visual dynamic, reinforcing the gravity of their exchange. Between them, microphones are discreetly positioned, capturing every word, while small earpieces ensure seamless communication with production team. The studio itself is a marvel of contemporary design, bathed in neon blue and purple lighting that gives the space a sleek, almost cinematic quality. The lighting is deliberate, cool tones dominate, evoking a sense of seriousness, while occasional shifts in hue add depth to the scene. Large, high-definition screens line the backdrop, displaying subtle graphics related to discussion, though the primary focus remains on the two interviewees. Behind them, partially visible through the strategic play of light and shadow, a small group of crew members observes the proceedings. Some wear masks, a nod to modern health protocols, while others adjust cameras or monitor audio levels. Their presence is a reminder of the intricate machinery behind live television, unseen yet essential to production. At the top left corner of the screen, the words "Black Struggles" appear in bold, stark lettering. The title is unambiguous, signaling the weighty subject matter under discussion. It suggests a conversation about systemic inequities, historical injustices, or contemporary social movements, an issue demanding both intellectual rigor and emotional resonance. The choice of font is modern yet assertive, ensuring that viewers immediately grasp the centrality of the topic. Meanwhile, in the bottom right corner, a red YouTube-style subscribe button lingers, a subtle but deliberate nod to digital media consumption. Its presence blurs a line between traditional broadcast journalism and the evolving landscape of online content, acknowledging the role of platforms like YouTube in shaping public discourse. The overall tone of the interview is one of high-stakes professionalism. Every element, from the set design to the participants' body language, has been calibrated to convey credibility and importance. The man's responses are measured yet passionate, his words carrying the weight of lived experience and scholarly insight. The woman, as the interviewer, balances respect with incisiveness, ensuring the conversation remains engaging without devolving into sensationalism. The crew's quiet vigilance underscores the precision required in live television, where every second counts and every frame is deliberate. Beyond the immediate visual and auditory elements, there's an unspoken tension in the air, and understand that the discussion transcends the studio, reaching into homes, offices, and public spaces where viewers hang on every word. The neon lights, the glass table, the poised interviewees, all serve as metaphors for transparency, modernity, and the unflinching examination of difficult truths. The Black Struggles header is not merely a topic, but a provocation, a call to acknowledge and engage with issues that have shaped and continue to shape societies globally. As the interview progresses, the camera angle shifts subtly. Close-ups capture nuanced expressions, wide shots emphasize the studio's grandeur, and occasional cutaways to the crew remind the audience of the human effort behind the production. The lighting adjusts in response to the emotional cadence of the conversation, dimming slightly during reflective moments and brightening during more intense exchanges. The glass table, almost ethereal under the lights, symbolizes the fragility and clarity sought in such discussions, where words must be both precise and impactful. The YouTube subscribe button, though a small detail, speaks volumes about the changing nature of media. It acknowledges that conversations like these are no longer confined to traditional TV broadcasts, but are part of a larger, more accessible digital ecosystem. It invites the audience to engage beyond passive viewership, to subscribe, to comment, to become part of an ongoing dialogue. In this meticulously crafted environment, the interview is more than just an exchange of ideas. It is a performance of modern journalism, a dance between form and substance, aesthetics and meaning. The black man's eloquence, the blonde woman's sharp questioning, the crew's silent orchestration, and the studio's dazzling aesthetics all converge to create a moment that is as visually compelling as it is intellectually stimulating. Ultimately, the scene captures the essence of 21st century media, a blend of tradition and innovation, where serious discourse is elevated by cutting-edge production, and where the stories that matter are told with both style and substance. The black struggles heading lingers on the screen, a reminder that beneath the sleek visuals and professional polish lies a conversation that is urgent, necessary, and far from over. The interview ignited a firestorm, one that rippled far beyond the initial broadcast, sparking debates in living rooms, boardrooms, and the endless echo chambers of social media. Clips of Darius's unflinching rebuttals, particularly his now iconic burning building analogy, spread like wildfire, dissected and debated with an intensity that bordered on obsession. His words, sharp and unapologetic, struck a nerve. To some, he was a truth-teller, a man who refused to sanitize his message to the comfort of those in power. To others, he was a provocateur, his tone too abrasive, his delivery too raw. The polarization was immediate and visceral, a microcosm of the broader cultural divides that had been festering for years. His burning building analogy, in particular, became a flashpoint. In it, he had compared systemic inequities to a structure ablaze, with marginalized communities trapped inside, while those in power debated whether the fire was real, whether the victims deserved rescue, or whether they should simply be grateful for the occasional bucket of water tossed their way. The metaphor was incendiary, and it spread across platforms with hashtags both condemning and celebrating him. Memes were born, some earnest, others mocking. Pundits on cable news parsed his words with the same gravity as a presidential address, while late-night comedians used them as punchlines. The discourse was relentless, a churning machine that fed on controversy, and Darius was squarely at its center. Critics were quick to dismiss him as just another angry activist, a label he had heard before, but one that carried fresh venom in this context. Op-eds in conservative outlets painted him as divisive, a man more interested in stoking outrage than fostering dialogue. Some accused him of biting the hand that fed him, as if his access to a platform meant he owed deference to the very systems he critiqued. Others weaponized respectability politics, suggesting that his message, no matter how valid, was undermined by his refusal to soften his edges. Why can't he be more like, insert palatable black figure here? They asked, as if his worth was contingent on his ability to perform gratitude for the scraps of opportunity tossed his way. But his supporters saw something else entirely. To them, Darius was a rarity, a voice that refused to be diluted, a man who spoke not just truth to power, but truth in power's language. They celebrated his refusal to beg for a seat at a table he had never asked to sit at in the first place. On Black Twitter, in progressive circles, and among grassroots organizers, his words were amplified, his analogies repurposed into rallying cries. Young activists, in particular, latched onto his unapologetic stance, seeing in him a model for how to navigate spaces that demanded their presence but resented their demands. Behind the scenes, however, the backlash was more than just rhetorical. Anonymous threats flooded his inbox, some vague, others chillingly specific. Sponsors quietly distanced themselves, citing brand alignment concerns. Corporate speak for not wanting to be associated with controversy. Speaking engagements were canceled under flimsy pretenses, and partnerships he had spent years cultivating evaporated overnight. The message was clear. There was a cost to speaking this plainly, and the bill was coming due. Yet, for every door that closed, another cracked open. The controversy, as exhausting as it was, had undeniably amplified his platform. Media outlets that had once ignored him now clamored for interviews, though many were clearly more interested in the spectacle than the substance. Still, Darius recognized the opportunity. When offers began rolling in for a primetime special, one where he could expand on systemic inequities without the constraints of sound bites or sensationalist editing, he saw a chance to redirect the narrative. This wouldn't just be another interview. It would be a manifesto, a deep dive into the structures he had spent his career dismantling. The prospect was daunting. A primetime slot meant a broader audience, but also meant higher stakes. Every word would be scrutinized, every pause overanalyzed. The same forces that had tried to silence him would be watching, waiting for a misstep. But Darius had never been one to back down. If they wanted a show, he'd give them one, just not the kind they expected. As preparations began, his team braced for the inevitable fallout. There would be more think pieces, more tone policing, more attempts to twist his words. But there would also be people listening, really listening for the first time, and that he knew was worth the firestorm. For Darius, this was never just about one interview. It was about who controls the narrative. He had spent years watching how America cherry-picks black voices, elevating those who play by unwritten rules while silencing those who expose the machinery of oppression. The pattern was predictable. Celebrate individual black excellence as proof of a functioning meritocracy, then use those same success stories to dismiss systemic barriers. If he made it, "Why can't you?" it was a sleight of hand, a way to turn progress into propaganda. Now, with the nation's attention locked onto him after the firestorm of his last interview, Darius saw an opening, not just to speak, but to shift the axis of the conversation entirely. The network's offer for a primetime special had come wrapped in corporate euphemisms. They wanted a nuanced discussion on race and opportunity, a thought-provoking exploration of modern inequities. Translation: they wanted him to form a palatable version of dissent, one that wouldn't unsettle advertisers or alienate their largely white, affluent viewership. Darius had been down this road before. He knew how these things worked, how radical ideas got sanded down into digestible sound bites, how hard truths were softened into perspectives to be debated rather than imperatives to act. But this time, he had no intention of playing along. They wanted a diversity segment, he told Tasha, his longtime collaborator and strategist, as they pored over the network's proposal in his dimly lit office. The glow of her laptop reflected in her glasses as she arched an eyebrow. "Let me guess. 3-minute intro, 5-minute moderated Q&A, 2 minutes for hopeful solutions, and a commercial break?" Darius smirked. Worse, they're framing it as a dialogue. The word dripped with irony. In media land, dialogue too often meant centering the comfort of the privileged, treating oppression as a theoretical exercise rather than a lived reality. Tasha leaned back, folded her arms. "So what's the move? You know they'll cut your mic the second you go off script." Darius exhaled, tapping his pen against the desk. The stakes were clear. Either uphold the myth of a post-racial meritocracy with polite, performative discourse, or force a reckoning with the rigged game itself. The first option might earn him applause from the usual suspects, liberal pundits praising his eloquence, corporate diversity panels inviting him as a keynote speaker. The second option risked backlash, isolation, maybe even career suicide. But it also held the faint possibility of something far more important, rupture. He chose the latter. The night of the special arrived under a haze of anticipation. The network had promoted it with dramatic teasers, slow-motion shots of Darius at a podium, grave voiceovers about hard conversations. The framing was deliberate. They wanted controversy, but contained controversy. Ratings-friendly rebellion. What they got was something else entirely. Darius opened not with the expected platitudes about unity, but with an unflinching indictment. "Let's start with a fact," he said, locking eyes with the camera. "Meritocracy is a fairy tale told to keep people chasing a finish line that moves every time they get close." The studio audience shifted uncomfortably. He continued, methodically dismantling the myths that propped up the status quo, the bootstrap narratives, the just work harder mantras, the insistence that inequality was a matter of individual failings rather than engineered disparity. Then came the evidence. He flashed graphs on the screen behind him, redlining maps superimposed over modern wealth gaps, Studies showing identical resumes with black-sounding names getting fewer callbacks. Data on how even elite education couldn't shield black professionals from wage discrimination. This isn't anecdotal, he said. This is arithmetic. The moderator, a seasoned journalist with a reputation for balanced reporting, tried to steer the conversation toward both sides. Darius cut him off. There aren't two sides to facts. You don't debate gravity. You don't negotiate with fire. The audience murmured. Social media lit up. By the second commercial break, the network's executives were in panic mode. Their metrics showed soaring ratings, but also a flood of angry calls from sponsors. Darius could see the stage manager's tense posture, the way the camera operators avoided his gaze. He knew what was coming. A rushed wrap-up, an abrupt end, maybe even a post-show clarification issued by the network to distance themselves from his words. But then something unexpected happened. Viewers weren't just reacting, they were mobilizing. Hashtags like #RigGame and #Masterclass started trending. Teachers live-tweeted clips to their students. Community organizers projected the special onto screens in meeting halls. Even critics couldn't look away. The network, realizing they had a viral moment on their hands, hesitated to intervene. Darius seized the opening. In the final segment, he went further. "They'll call me divisive for saying this," he said. "But justice isn't about making everyone comfortable. It's about making things right." He called out corporations that profit from black culture while underfunding black communities, politicians who weaponize law and order to justify oppression, media outlets that reduce movements to hashtags. Then, pivoting to the audience, he issued a challenge. The question isn't whether you agree with me. The question is what you're going to do about it. The fallout was immediate. Right-wing outlets branded him a radical. Some former allies distanced themselves, fearing association with his uncompromising stance. But for every detractor, there were thousands who felt seen for the first time. Bookings from grassroots organizations flooded in. Young activists cited his words in rallies. A professor at Howard University announced she was restructuring her syllabus to include his special as required viewing. Darius had known the risks, but as he watched the ripple effects, the debate sparked in barbershops and boardrooms, the shift in how people framed discussions about race and power, he knew the gamble had been worth it. They wanted a diversity segment. He'd given them a reckoning.